the world first heard them not as a people, but as a warning. From the cold, mist-covered seas of northern Europe came ships, long, narrow, and silent. Their sails cut through the horizon like blades, and with them came warriors, swift, ruthless, and relentless. To the monks of England, they were heathens. To the kings of Europe, they were invaders. To history, they became legends. This is the story of the Viking Age, a time of exploration, conquest, trade, and transformation. Long before their name echoed across Europe, the people of Scandinavia lived in a harsh and unforgiving land. Norway, Sweden, and Denmark regions defined by rugged mountains, dense forests, and icy fjords. The soil was poor, the winters long, and survival was never guaranteed. These conditions shaped a people who were resilient, resourceful, and fiercely independent. Society was built around clans and chieftains. Honor, loyalty, and strength defined a man's worth. Their beliefs were woven into Norse mythology stories of Odin, the All-Father, Thor, the Thunder God, and Loki, the Trickster. They believed in fate, an unchangeable destiny that even the gods could not escape. But while their homeland was harsh, it also gave them something extraordinary, a reason to leave. The Viking Age did not begin quietly. It began with fire. In the year 793, on the northeastern coast of England, stood a peaceful monastery, Lindisfarne, a place of prayer, learning, and isolation. Then, without warning, ships appeared on the horizon. The Vikings struck with terrifying speed. Monks were slaughtered, sacred treasures looted, the holy sanctuary left in ruins. Europe was shocked. This was not just an attack, it was the beginning of a new era. The Vikings' greatest weapon was not the sword. It was the ship. The longship, sleek, flexible, and fast, was a masterpiece of engineering. It could sail across open oceans or glide through shallow rivers, allowing Vikings to strike deep inland where no enemy expected them. With these ships, they became unmatched navigators. They crossed the North Sea to England and Ireland. They sailed down the rivers of Russia to Byzantium. They even ventured across the Atlantic, reaching Iceland, Greenland, and eventually North America, centuries before Columbus. The sea was not a barrier. It was their highway. Though often remembered as raiders, the Vikings were far more complex. Yes, they attacked coastal towns and monasteries seeking gold, silver, and slaves. But they were also traders, connecting distant parts of the world. From the markets of Baghdad to the streets of Constantinople, Viking merchants exchanged goods like furs, amber, weapons, and silk. Over time, raiding turned into settlement. In England, they established the Danelaw territories ruled by Viking law. In France, they were granted land that became Normandy. In the East, they became known as the Rus founding early states that would shape Russia. They did not just destroy civilizations, they became part of them. To understand the Vikings, we must look beyond the battlefield. Daily life revolved around farming, fishing, and craftsmanship. Families lived in longhouses, sharing space with animals during harsh winters. Women held significant roles in society. They managed households, controlled property, and, in some cases, even took up arms. Children were raised to value strength and honor. And at the heart of their culture was storytelling. Through sagas and poetry, they preserved their history tales of gods, heroes, and great journeys. Death was not feared. It was embraced. For the greatest warriors, death in battle meant entry into Valhalla, a grand hall where they would feast and fight until the end of time. By the 9th century, Viking raids evolved into something far more dangerous: armies. In 865 AD, a massive force known as the Great Heathen Army invaded England. Unlike earlier raiders, they came not just to plunder, but to conquer. Kingdoms fell, cities burned. Only a few resisted, most notably Alfred the Great of Wessex. Through resilience and strategy, Alfred pushed back the Vikings, establishing a fragile balance between Saxon and Norse power. But the struggle for England was far from over. As time passed, Viking leaders began to transform into kings. One of the most powerful was Cnut the Great. By the early 11th century, he ruled over England, Denmark, and Norway, forming a vast North Sea empire. This was no longer the age of scattered raiders. It was the age of organized rule. The Vikings had evolved from warriors to rulers of nations. Every era has its end. For the Vikings, that end came in 1066. Harald Hardrada, the last great Viking king, launched an invasion of England. But at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, his forces were defeated. It marked the final chapter of the Viking Age. Soon after, England itself fell to another invader, William the Conqueror, a descendant of Vikings who had settled in Normandy. The age of Viking expansion was over, but their legacy remained. The Vikings did not disappear. They changed. They became part of the cultures they once attacked, shaping languages, laws, and societies across Europe. Their exploration reshaped the map of the world. Their trade connected distant civilizations. Their stories continue to inspire myths, films, and history itself. Even today, their influence lives on in place names, traditions, and the enduring fascination with their world. They came from the cold edges of the world, driven by survival, ambition, and destiny. They were feared as destroyers, respected as explorers, remembered as legends. The Vikings were not just raiders of history, they were architects of change, and their story still echoes across time.